and doing it in his own way. And I think that's a true sign of MVP, of coming into a season and really initiating himself into that leadership role and doing it on both ends of the floor. His stats speak for themselves. He's first in a lot of different categories. He's held the team up when I wasn't able to be in the lineup and I was injured. So there are a lot of factors that attribute to his MVP case.
Lastly, I'm not trying to make the MVP case for you, but I did see the numbers that you've put up this season, and they're numbers that rival a guy named Michael Jordan in his MVP seasons. How does that feel when you hear that stuff?
It's an honor to be in those conversations, if I'm even in them. It's why you play the game and what you dream about as a kid, so it's an honor. Obviously, I have a long way to go before I get to even be in the same conversation as him, but it's an honor.
Well, I don't think we here in Denver have asked you a single MVP question this season.
Yes, good job.
And I'm going to break it.
What's up, everybody on YouTube? AJ Russ back to discuss another video. And as you can see from the title, we're going to talk about this NBA MVP race. So guys, we know the storylines, and really it's a three-headed horse between who's going to win the MVP. Between Nikola Jokic, who, if he does win, it'll be his third MVP in 4 seasons. Last player to do that is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the 1980s. Insane uncharted territory that he would be in that scenario. You also have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who has led the Oklahoma City Thunder to an unlikely #1 seed, being the second youngest team in the league, getting buckets, having a great culture up there in Oklahoma. He has a great case in himself. And then also you have the Don, Luka Doncic, who is leading the league in scoring this season. Dallas Mavericks obtained the #5 seed in the West, finished off strong, I believe, winning 16 out of their last 21 games in the regular season. Him and Kyrie have a great rapport. Also, the Mavericks have more depth. We saw Nikola Jokic a few seasons ago win his first MVP as a 6th seed, so there's a lot of swing arguments that you can make for each player. So in this video, we're gonna dive into each potential candidate's reasoning and why they could win the award, and ultimately who I believe that will win it, who should win it the most, and why I believe that when it all is said and done, that each one of these players will have an MVP in their career. Obviously, Jokic already has 2. Well, we'll have 3 if he wins this one, but Luka Doncic, he's a perennial MVP candidate. It just depends on his team, usually, and this is the best his team has looked, and if they bring back this roster next year, it could be scary hours even more. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I mean, their team is so young. A lot of them are around my age, being 20, 21 years old. They have a long future and a bright future, and Sam Presti has a billion first-round picks, so they have a lot of plays to go. This conversation is intriguing, and we're going to talk about who's going to win this year's MVP award. But before we get into the video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe and turn on and post notifications. You know we post about here sports, lifestyle, pop culture, videos about cooking, shorts, all types of things like that, NBA, NFL. And with that being said, let's talk about who's going to win the 2024 NBA MVP. So for me, guys, this is a very fluctuating conversation. Really, there's no wrong answer, and it is subjective. So at the end of the day, the people who have the votes in the media and overall in the NBA circles will determine this award and all the other awards in all NBA teams. So when you talk about who's most deserving, that can go in an array of different ways. Like I said a second ago, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he led the Thunder to the #1 seed. No one was expecting that. Last year, yes, they made the play-in, but no one expected them to have that type of leap because they didn't even make the playoffs from the play-in. And just really what that team has been able to do overall, not just him, not just Shai, but also the whole team. Chet Holmgren playing amazing in his technically rookie year, but sophomore year, you know how that conversation goes. But then also J-Dub, and really just their whole team and their whole roster, their coach, Mark Daigneault, I think that's how you say his name. If that's wrong, then that's my bad. But he's been an impressive coach. But talking about Shai even more because we're locking in on this MVP conversation, he's been sensational. I mean, he's literally the definition of Mr. 31. We know how many 30-point games he's had, averaging 30.1 points per game on 5 rebounds and 6 assists per game, shooting an extremely efficient 53% from the field and also 35% from 3. He's a smooth operator. I love watching Shai's game. You can't speed him up. It's really the same thing for all of these players. Jokic, Luka, you can't speed these guys up. And like I talked about, Shai is Mr. 30, almost 50 games this season with over 30 points. Like, he just gets buckets and he's going to get them regardless. Watching his game is just smooth off the mid-range. I remember when he was coming into the league, a lot of people compared him to Sean Livingston, but he's expanded his game to the 3-point line, and he's just really flashy and efficient, but also his defensive ability as well. You can make the case that he should be first team all defense this season as well. Him, his teammate Lou Dort, I mean, they clamp defensively. Even J-Dub plays really good defense. So Shai definitely has the two-way player aspect of the MVP unlock, including also being the 1st seed in the West. And with the play-in going on right now at the recording of this video, obviously that'll be irrelevant to this conversation. But if you look at the conversation before the Lakers played against the Pelicans in that play-in game, a lot of people were disrespecting the Thunder, especially Shannon Sharpe.
Weakest #1 seed in the the
Wow. The
NBA
disrespect
in a
for Oklahoma City is
That's very
crazy,
disrespectful,
dudes.
Shannon. That's very disrespectful. You mean the weakest number one seed?
Weakest.
Oklahoma City,
Yes.
led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yes.
Like saying basically that the Thunder aren't on anything, I understand it because they haven't been there, and I've made that point up too. It wouldn't be crazy to see them lose in the first round, but just acting like they've never been there, that's pretty disrespectful, bro, because they've been playing real basketball, and that really tells you that some people just don't be watching, honestly, and that's fine. Some people love watching the NBA, some people will pay attention to it all the time. They get into the metrics, they get into the stats, and some people are just casually watching, just fall in love with the old stars and stuff like that. But if you're watching the game, the Thunder, they're for real. They're a great team on both sides of the ball. They can score with anyone in the league, and Shai is a capitalist of that. So if he was the MVP, I wouldn't be mad at it. Really, any of them. I mean, personally, Luka is one of my top 2 favorite players in the league, so obviously I would want him to win, but I have no issue with Jokic or Shai, who's been playing great, or of course Luka. In SGA, he has a prime case to win it. Now, switching gears to a player like Luka Doncic, really there is none like him. Some people try to say that he's a better version of James Harden right now, or a white James Harden, and I didn't really want to say that because I don't want to, you know, ruffle some feathers, but some people do say that, and that's honestly very disrespectful because James Harden has never played like Luka, in the playoffs especially. I made a video a few weeks back talking about how the Mavericks are going to be dangerous in the playoffs. Make no mistake, I wouldn't be surprised if they make the conference finals, potentially to play against the Denver Nuggets or things of that nature, because how they finished the regular season, they're hot right now, and that rapport between Kyrie and Luka is dynamic. But this is an individual award, and Luka, he's individually been one of the greatest players in the league since he stepped in it in 2018-19. I talked about how he's leading the league in scoring this season, essentially averaging 34 points per game on 9 rebounds, and if you round it up as 10 assists per game, I mean, that's close to a triple-double. We know that's in Nikola Jokic's realm because he gets triple-doubles with ease, but Luka does that as well, and there's streaks at times where he's had 40-point triple-doubles consecutively in a row. We know that 70-plus point game that he had this season. I mean, he's like that. And not to talk too much about the postseason because this is a regular season award, but I'm telling you, Luka is about to cut the Clippers. We've seen this before, and now this team is even better with Kyrie, with more of a bench, adding in pieces like a Daniel Gafford, PJ Washington. They're really cooking and have a lot of momentum right now. But going back to the MVP conversation of it in the regular season, a lot of people talk about if you take this player off of this team will still be solid. Like if you talk about the Celtics, if you take Jason Tatum off, they'll still be a playoff team. If you take Nikola Jokic off of the Nuggets, obviously they wouldn't be a good team because Jokic's impact is astonishing. But same thing for Luka. And last season, we saw him play great. Now obviously he had some injuries as well, and Kyrie did too, and he came at the trade deadline. So that team wasn't intact throughout the whole season like they have been this year. But if you take Luka off of their team, if you take Luka off of the Mavericks, come on man, let's be real, they are awful. So the impact conversation of being the most valuable player definitely is credited to Luka in that aspect. Also the Jokic too, and we'll talk about Jokic in a second, but we're keying in on Luka right now. And I mean, in terms of what you have to do to win an MVP, I mean, they're winning at a great level. They won 50 plus games in a stacked Western Conference that had 5 teams win over 50 games. I mean, like I've talked about before, the West is a gauntlet, and it's gonna be tough like this next year too because you have more teams coming into the fray. The Grizzlies coming back, the Rockets are creeping up being a better team. The West is tough, and the Mavericks, they were a little inconsistent throughout mid-season, but they got hot after the trade deadline, after they added those pieces, and Luka is a huge component of that. And now that he has Kyrie with him, which some people may use to diminish his MVP case, that really opens a real window for them. But if Luka doesn't win it this year, I think he's gonna win in the next 2 years because just how he's playing at a young age, just turned 25 in February, how he makes his teammates better, his playmaking, his IQ, his scoring ability, the lack of athleticism that he has to rely on to his game, I mean, it's gonna really extend his career in my opinion, as long as his workload isn't too high, which it isn't now with the Kyrie Irving on the team. If you use that to his disadvantage, I would say okay. But I think Luka, his impact and his value to his team is his biggest positive point in terms of the MVP case this year, along with leading the league in scoring. How dominant he has been. No one can stop him. I mean, that's facts. We're about to see him put on a clinic, I have no doubt, against the Los Angeles Clippers. And last but not least, you know the last player that we're talking about on the thumbnail, Nikola Jokic, 2-time MVP, last year final MVP and NBA champion. And I'm not gonna beat around the bush. I saved him for last because it's looking like he's gonna win his 3rd MVP in the 4th season. And rightfully so. I talked about it. Same thing with Luka, the impact, the value factor. Him on the Nuggets, without him, they are not a championship contender. Really not a playoff contender in my eyes. We know how great Jamal Murray is in the playoffs, but in terms of the regular season, he's inconsistent. He gets injured a good amount, so that's that conversation. But with Nikola Jokic, he makes his teammates so much better. He may not be averaging as many points as a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or a Luka Doncic, as he is averaging 26 points per game on 12 rebounds and 9 assists, which is also nearly a triple-double similarly to Luka. But just what he's done. And you can make the argument that he should have won MVP last year over Joel Embiid. I think it's just a fatigue from the voter standpoint, which is understandable, but I think he's gonna win it. And they are the 2nd seed, and SGA does have that over Jokic being the 1st seed in the Western Conference, but I don't think a lot of people will take that too much into consideration in the vote because, like I talked about earlier, Jokic won MVP as a 6th seed in 2021. So there's anomalies to that, and he's a 2nd seed. So like that's not a huge difference between being 1st and 2nd. It literally came down to the last day of the regular season on who was gonna obtain the 1st seed in the Western Conference. But for Jokic, bro, like we're gonna see them potentially put on another historic run in the playoffs, playing against the Lakers again in the 1st round. They have their number. I'm not gonna say the Lakers are gonna get swept again, but I wouldn't expect much if I'm a fan of Los Angeles because Jokic has given AD and the Lakers the business for sure. And it's crazy to see in 2020 in the bubble, it wasn't like that, but Jokic just upped his game even more, and he's really just a problem solver. And I mean that in the aspect of he's gonna figure your team out. Whatever defensive looks you're gonna throw at him, he's gonna find ways to pick you apart. I mean, he's literally like a quarterback on the court and then an elite one. So yeah, this necessarily isn't talking about the postseason, but the playoffs are about to start in a couple of days, so I can't remiss that. And talking about how they are favorites from everyone. I know what Boston has done, but we saw Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets shred that team apart in the regular season. You can add that to a potential case for his MVP vote as well because you're beating the best statistical team in the NBA 2 times in the regular season, sweeping them. That's another component. So I just feel like Jokic is going to win it again. I think a lot of people think that, and if you look at the numbers, if you look at what is being said, how the season has went, and in big games how the Nuggets have played, I think they're going to give it to him. But like I said, as a Luka Doncic fan, I want Luka to win. Shea, he's played phenomenal, and the Thunder have been phenomenal, and I wouldn't be surprised if he were to win the award. If I think of most likely people to win it, I think it's Jokic, then Shea, then Luka, not just because of their conference standings, but if you look up at the MVP, it's also a narrative-driven award. And I think Jokic is going to win it, and he deserves it. Really, all these players deserve it, and like I said, I can foresee all of them getting an award at some point. But yeah, guys, y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments down below. Who do you think is going to win this year's MVP award? Is it Jokic? Is it Luka? Is it SGA? Y'all let me know. It's an intriguing conversation. This is a beautiful time. Yes, sir, ski. Best time of the year, in my opinion. Love the NBA. It's playoff time. I hope y'all are enjoying these playing games as well. It's great, man. We're about to see who steps up. This is the time where pressures makes diamonds. Who has the ice to make those diamonds, and who's going to step up? So y'all let me know in the comments down below who y'all think the MVP is. And the playoffs are almost here, so that's another component, and stay tuned for that playoff video I have coming in a couple of days because we have to talk about it. I'm going to share predictions and just storylines in general, but let me know who y'all think the MVP is. I appreciate you guys watching. Always make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at SwaggyRuss, and also on TikTok at SwaggyRuss02 for cooking videos, shorts, content, reels, things of that nature. More videos are on the way. I appreciate all the support and love lately. This year, we're lit, guys. I'm telling you, about to graduate in a few weeks, thank God. And we're going to continue to get busy on the channel. This embarking on sports media is coming, and all glory to God because of that, but we're going to do great things. I appreciate the love and support always. Know that you can do anything. You have purpose. You're here for a reason. God loves you. Y'all have a good one. Be blessed.